Right guys, so we're going to do an update for the Turbosmart Turbo and wastegates versus the old TO4Z on the 2JZ, and what my goal was to see what was required to make the same amount of torque essentially. So we did look at having the same boost level perhaps, but what we decided is we want to make that same torque on spring pressure with a basic tune and just see where we were at. So at 2900 RPM we have gained 50% more torque. So we've gone from 280 to 422 Newton meters, and surprisingly enough it's actually at less boost. As far as the torque goes, we are making peak torque around that 4800 to 5 through to 5.8, whereas before we weren't making peak torque till about 6,150. So it's over 1000 RPM earlier, and we've got 50% more torque at 2900 RPM. We have lost a little bit of torque in the top end, however I am just running it on spring pressure. The wastegate before was too small, so the boost would actually spike into the top end, which is help hold the torque, whereas on this one we've got a significantly bigger wastegate, so the boost actually falls off a little bit. We will do a bit more EMP testing and stuff like that. However, at this stage we're making the same torque at around 3 psi less boost, and the power is very close at about 5 psi less. So 50% more torque at 2900 and about 1200 RPM lower we're making full torque roughly. So you'll see right here we're making 280 Newton meters on the money, and up here we're about 428. So I'm just going to show you guys over the boost. So we're using the same start time, the same everything, same ramp rate, tied down on the dyno the same way. The inlet air temps were within 1 degree, so we feel that the data is very relevant. And we've gone from 6 psi at 2900 RPM to 10, and at peak torque we're running 13 pounds, so we're making 500 and something Newton meters on spring pressure, whereas before we were making the same peak torque at 15.5 psi. So we've lost almost 3 pounds to make the same total torque output. As far as the power goes, it was making a bit before, but it's due to this boost spike. I've had 2 different wastegates, actually 3 on one of my rotaries, and the 50 was a little bit small and it would hold boost into the top end, and then when I put a 60 on it, it would actually fall off a little bit. You can see this effect from exhaust manifold pressure, but I believe that that's the case in this scenario. We will do a bit more testing on that. However, the boost is around that 4.5 to 5 pound less, and our total horsepower is very close. So I believe that if we ran 13 pound flat in the top end, would probably make the exact same power figure. So I'll show you where the power is, and keep in mind we were only chasing 450 horse with this setup. It was more about response, but I'm pretty impressed. We've made 1200 RPM more response. We've made the torque at a significant amount less boost, and at the moment we didn't actually get to finish the dyno on it because the load cell started playing up. So I think with a little bit of timing and just cleaning things up a little bit, I believe this exact setup would probably make at the same boost, if not more power and torque, and obviously that significant increase in response where we wanted it between 3,000 and 5,000 RPM is just going to be an absolute game changer. Tony deleted a few tyres in it in the weekend, and it definitely sounds completely different, and obviously it's very hard just to see on the dyno how it drives transiently, and it definitely just comes into that boost really nicely. So I'm definitely impressed with that significant gain in response. 1200 RPM is a lot, and obviously making that torque at 3 psi less boost is always beneficial as well. So I think that this turbo would easily make 100 plus horsepower more, but it isn't what we're chasing from it. Like, we're just wanting to keep it super basic because it's a lot harder to get in the cars when you've got kids and mortgages, and that is all you know these days. Right, so I'm just onto the power, guys. It's made 35% more power between 3 and 3,500 RPM, so it's about 238 horsepower, and before on that line it was about 183. We have lost a tiny bit in the very top end. As you can see here, it's about 480, and it was around that 515. However, what you have to remember is that's 5.5 psi, I think, roughly more boost pressure to make that. So we have made gains all the way up to 5,700 RPM, all at less boost pressure, and then we've only sacrificed this very small gain right on red line. However, if you go over to the boost pressure, you'll see that because we've got no controller or anything like that on at the moment, the boost was at 15.5 pound, whereas we're running 11.2 psi, falling off to about 11 flat, and we're very close on that power output. So if we get our boost controller and hold that boost flat, or if we had that same smaller wastegate that we did on the previous manifold, I believe that at 5 psi more boost, there's no two ways about it, it'd make more power. So if you've got an older setup on your car and you're looking at jumping into the 21st century, definitely check out Turbosmart's new range of turbochargers and wastegates. There's no two ways about it. They've come leaps and bounds, and your vehicle could be absolutely changed, get if not better results with a vast improvement of drivability, and obviously run lower boost pressure to do so.